Good morning and a warm welcome. You're watching Mirror Now with me, Grihat Siddiqui. Straight on to the top story of the day. As the controversy over headscarves in Karnataka intensifies, Chief Minister of the state, Basavaraj Bommai, has ordered that all high schools and colleges will remain shut in order to maintain peace and harmony in the state. Now, this comes after massive protests and clashes erupted in the state on Tuesday. We've seen what really happened yesterday. These are visuals which are disturbing. At the same time, you are getting down to question what is happening to students. These are young children with very impressionable minds. They are standing on two sides of the spectrum. One hand, you'd see the color saffron. On the other hand, you will see girls clad in hijab, and they possibly were students and friends. They are standing on different sides protesting against one another. And why? All this because of a religious symbol that they don't want sported. These girls have been wearing hijab for quite some time now, but it's only recently that a stir happened in one of the government colleges in Udupi in Karnataka, where saffron scarf clad hooligans really entered the campus and they started protesting about, in fact, against hijab in the campus. And from that day to now, this is what the situation on ground has turned out to be. What happens to education? Of course, it suffers. My colleague Neha Hebale joins me live on the broadcast. Neha, as I was mentioning, this is the situation on ground. We do understand that for 3 days, the colleges and the schools are now shut. But why is this happening? All this because a few girls chose to wear a headscarf.
Well, that's as simple, as it is, Griha. It's really unfortunate that after a few girls, in fact, chose to protect their right to practice their religion and propagate their religion, we're seeing how the entire controversy has really snowballed into, something much bigger across the state of Karnataka. Today, we're seeing protests. Several colleges, in fact, protests were even likely to turn violent, and which is why the police had to intervene. We saw yesterday how both in Davangere district as well as Shimoga district, in certain parts of the district, there was Section 144 that was imposed only to control the law and order situation over there. The police had to use tear gas, the police had to use lathi charge, there was stone pelting that was already in place before the police arrived. And what's even more unfortunate right now, Via, is that as we're talking about all of this, there doesn't really seem to be an immediate solution in sight, because this is a controversy that's been on for almost about 7 to 8 weeks now. We've been seeing it from December 2021. The government has remained very firm on their stand, and it's only now that the students have actually moved the High Court that we're likely to see some sort of respite in place.
Right, Neha. In fact, stay on with me. We'll continue with more developments on this particular story. Meanwhile, Mirror Now's Revati, in fact, spoke to some college students in the capital city of Karnataka, Bengaluru. Let's listen in.
I feel that the hijab issue shouldn't become an issue now, because there are few Muslim women who actually don't wear the hijab. There are few women who wear it. They should actually be particular about what they want to do. It can't be something very biased. Not everybody should follow different rules. And I feel that since in Hinduism the Ghungat system has slowly vanished with the modern world. People in Rajasthan do wear it. I think they do it after marriage, but now they aren't doing it because they're in the modern world. They're adapting to it. And academically looking at it, when we enter a NEET exam hall, we are checked thoroughly, and we are literally asked to remove our footwear, whatever. How is it fair if they get to wear hijabs and go in? We are checked in such bad ways. So I feel, this is what I've heard from a friend. So
risking for them is done to as per the rules. Do you agree with that view? Do you have the same?
No, I feel it's obviously an individual choice whether you want to wear it or not, because if we are in the 21st century, the government didn't have a problem as of now. So all of a sudden they have this problem, and obviously we have learned about law to equality, and so many laws throughout in civics and everything. So before it wasn't a problem, how come all of a sudden they're coming up with this?
Okay.
And they're denying them the education.
Okay, students of your age group, they aren't allowed to enter the campus wearing a hijab. How do you look at that? How do you think the government should have dealt with it?
I feel, first of all, denying education to students just because of something that he or she is wearing is very wrong. Okay. And moreover, when you look at it at one way, yeah, education comes first, and religion. One thing is, religion is a very personal thing. Okay. What I believe in, what you believe in, is up to you, and it is up to me. So I feel that you can't just generalize things. Yeah, uniforms are a must. The main motive of keeping a uniform is to make everyone equal, and that sort of this thing was there. But I feel allowing students not to. I know there are security issues, and like she mentioned, need exam hall. But I feel we can put measures to somewhat
bring in some equality and not deny them education is what
denying education based just because of what they are wearing is very wrong.
And my colleague Revati Rajivan, who's taken that interview with these students, is live with me on the broadcast. Revati, in fact, this is a very welcome, and this is also a sigh of relief, because listening to these children, these students, is actually beautiful, because it's a stark change from what we have seen on ground. They do not want this confrontation. They do not want people to be put aside on grounds of religion. All they want is a right to education.
Well, yes, even as we speak about the saffron shawl versus the hijab row in all of these colleges, remember, all of these students are classmates. They are students who have sat in the same class, attended the same class for all these years. Even those who are wearing the hijab and entering class, in last 2 years, some of them have been going to colleges like that, and suddenly now there is a controversy that has erupted. So it is against their own friends and classmates that some of them are going against, which they are not happy about. In fact, the Karnataka High Court, which is hearing the case, has taken note of all these situations. Petitioner, in fact, made their submissions yesterday, where they've stated that wearing a hijab is an essential part of Islam. It is a part of right to freedom of speech and expression. It is also right to wear what you want, is also part of right to privacy, and that the government itself, to begin with, did not have any authority to give that circular as per the Karnataka education rules. Now, these are the submissions that the petitioner has made in this particular case, and the petitioner has also gone on to ask the government if it was a public order issue. Wearing a hijab and entering a class is a public order issue. Then why was it not a public order issue all this while? And women who are wearing hijab outside of the college, if that's not a public order issue, how does it become a public order issue as soon as the girl steps inside the college wearing a hijab? And if the government has to put restrictions in terms of the dress code, which they can if they have proper reason, they will have to justify that stand before the court. So these are the submissions that the petitioner has made, that the right to wear a hijab is an essential part of Islam. And the whole discussion in the High Court is going around whether or not this is an essential part of the religious practice, and that needs to be allowed in an educational institution.
Absolutely, Revati. In fact, the Karnataka High Court will be resuming that hearing on these petitions, these very petitions that Revati was talking about against the hijab ban in the colleges today. And the petition filed by the Muslim students have in fact sought court's intervention on their fundamental right to practice religion, including wearing a hijab as per Islamic faith inside the college campus. Now, the High Court, meanwhile, had appealed to the students and the people to maintain calm and tranquility in the state. Meanwhile, the Karnataka cabinet will be holding a meeting today at 11 a.m. over the hijab ban issue that has forced state government to shut down schools and colleges for 3 days. The Karnataka Home Minister, in fact, will be sitting along with the Higher Educational Minister and also the Primary Education Minister. They will be holding this meeting to deliberate on this issue after widespread protests happen across multiple districts in Karnataka on Tuesday. This meeting is going to be actually happening at 11 a.m. this morning, we are told. And this is an important meeting because the state minister, in fact, the chief minister of the state, Basavaraj Bommai, has appealed for maintenance of calm in the state. And he has ensured that minority rights will not be curtailed as far as the state of Karnataka is concerned. And he's come on record and said that over and over again. Neha, my colleague who's happened to meet with him during the course of these protests, is also live with me on the broadcast. Neha, this is the word that comes out from the chief minister of the state, and he has repeated this argument that, peace will be maintained. We are not really going ahead, giving way to curtailing any rights. But the situation on ground is quite different.
That's absolutely right, Griha. Let's tell you that right when the protest started, it was still a very peaceful situation in the state where we saw 8 girls standing outside their college premises asking for a basic right of theirs. Today, what we're seeing 7 weeks later is quite quite a turbulent situation over here in the state of Karnataka. We're seeing how from many districts, students are clashing with each other. Hijab-clad students are clashing with students turning up in saffron shawls. Students in hijabs are getting heckled. We saw that coming in from Mandya district yesterday as to how that girl was singled out and how she was heckled and how she stood up to them herself. And it's really an unfortunate situation now. Police is having to resort to tear gas in colleges. Let's remind you that these are still students. So even at a time like this, while the chief minister has been stating from the start that he would ensure a peaceful situation is maintained in the state, that there's no law and order, doesn't really go out of hand, that's exactly what's happened today. And even as we're talking about this, there has been a special cabinet meet that's been called for today at 11 o'clock. We understand the chief minister will be returning from Delhi after his meeting, of course, with the high command. And, now we're going to be seeing a special cabinet meeting being called just on this matter. Only yesterday, the Home Minister, the Education Minister, the Higher Education Minister had also met to discuss this very issue. They're probably likely going to be, putting their opinions also forth in that cabinet meeting, and whether any, serious decision is taken at all after this would be interesting to see, Griha, just ahead of the High Court hearing again today at 2:30.
Absolutely. Neha, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. Meanwhile, Nobel laureate and women's rights activist Malala Yousafzai has also weighed in on the hijab controversy. She has tweeted, and I quote her here, "Refusing to let girls go to school in their hijabs is horrifying. Objectification of women persists for wearing less or more. Indian leaders must stop the marginalization of Muslim women." Unquote. In fact, a telling video that shows the level of hostility on ground towards girl students wearing hijab in Karnataka has actually come to fore. In Mandya, a girl student wearing the hijab was hounded and heckled by a group of boys in saffron scarves. The boys chanted Jai Shri Ram, while the girl continued on her route and shouted back Allahu Akbar. Now, the issue of hijab ban echoed in the parliament, with opposition parties, including the Congress, the DMK and CPM and CPI, staging a walkout from the Lok Sabha over this issue on Tuesday. While the leaders of opposition parties targeted the ruling BJP in the state government blamed certain organizations for instigating the students.
See, it is not the hijab issue. It is the sad day of my political life. A national flag in an institution has been brought down in Karnataka, and a saffron flag has been posted. This no Indian can tolerate. We have seen our leaders who gave us freedom, we have seen our leaders who gave us national flag, who gave us constitution, and we all are respecting our constitution and the national flag. And today, for a small dress code which has been there, only to politicalize the image of politicalize the issue, the image of this country itself is stake.
मैं क्या पहनता हूं, मेरी बेटी क्या पहनती है, मेरी बीवी क्या पहनती है, उससे आपको क्या मतलब? आपको कुछ नहीं पहनना है, मत पहनो, मेरे को क्या करना है? क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट है। बोलेंगे इसने भड़काऊ बात की, जाहिल लोग हैं। पुट्टुस्वामी का जजमेंट है। पुट्टुस्वामी जजमेंट में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि कौन क्या खाता है, कौन क्या पहनता है, वो तुम्हारी जिम्मेदारी। अब तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 377 को भी बर्खास्त कर दिया। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कह दिया कि राइट टू चॉइस इज अ फंडामेंटल राइट, यानी आपकी पसंद क्या है वो आपका बुनियादी हक है। अगर हमारी बच्चियां बुर्का निकाब पहनती हैं तो आपके पेट में क्यों दर्द हो रहा है? अगर असदुद्दीन ओवैसी भारत की पार्लियामेंट में दाढ़ी और टोपी पहनकर जा सकता है तो क्या मेरी बेटी हिजाब और निकाब पहनकर स्कूल क्यों नहीं जा सकती?
Absolutely sad state of affairs there in the country, and we really have to look within and introspect. Is this the India that we want?